People always imagine betrayal as a single moment, a lipstick stain, a strange text, a guilty look. They're wrong. Betrayal is a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. I wasn't snooping. That's the part I always make clear. I was late for work, running on 2 hours of sleep, digging through my wife's purse looking for the car keys she kept stealing from me. And that's when my fingers brushed against something that didn't belong in our life. A small blue bottle. Prescription label peeled halfway off, not mine. Next to it, a sealed box of condoms, expensive ones. The kind she told me we couldn't afford when I suggested a weekend away last month. I stood there in the kitchen, the morning coffee going cold, the house silent except for the refrigerator humming like it was nervous. For a second, I waited for the pain. It didn't come. What came instead was something worse. Clarity. My name is Jake. I'm 36 years old. I fix computers for a living. Servers, networks, systems people don't think about until they break. I've always been good at seeing how things connect. Sarah, my wife, works in medical sales. She's good at people. Very good. Smiles on command. Confidence that feels rehearsed. The kind of charm that makes you trust her without knowing why. Standing there with that bottle in my hand, I didn't feel angry. I felt alert. Like something in my brain had switched modes. Most men would have confronted her immediately, demanded explanations, thrown the evidence on the table, watched the excuses tumble out. I didn't, because when you confront too early, you only learn what they want you to hear. I wanted the truth, the whole thing. That evening, Sarah came home like any other day, kissed my cheek, asked about my work, complained about traffic. She was calm, too calm. Later, while she showered, I did something I'd never done before. I paid attention, not emotionally. Technically, her phone habits, her timing, her stories. And the more I watched, the clearer the pattern became. Late nights, always Tuesdays and Thursdays. Work dinners that never produced receipts. Hotels she named casually, like they meant nothing. One name came up more than once. The Pine View. I knew it. Everyone did. A motel near the highway. Hourly rates. No questions asked. 3 days later, I confirmed what I already knew. I saw her car parked there. Middle of the afternoon. Middle of the week. I watched from across the lot as she walked out of a room, adjusting her hair, smiling. A man followed her. Tall, built, confident in a way that suggested practice. I recognized him. Derek, from her office. I watched them kiss, not hurried, not guilty, comfortable. That's what hurt the most. I took photos, clear ones, faces, location, timestamps. But even then, I didn't confront her, because proof is only useful if you know how to use it. And I wasn't ready yet. That night, lying next to her while she slept peacefully, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to lose control. I was going to let them keep playing, and I was going to watch. Because when people think they're winning, they get careless. I didn't follow them every time. That would have been reckless. Instead, I learned their rhythm. People having an affair don't think in chaos, they think in routines, and routines leave footprints. Sarah became predictable. Tuesday nights, client dinners, Thursday afternoons, regional meetings. Same excuses, same tone, same fake exhaustion when she came home. The lies weren't sloppy, they were rehearsed. That's how I knew this wasn't a mistake. It was a lifestyle. I installed a tracker in her car, not because I enjoyed it, because I needed confirmation. And confirmation came fast. The Pine View again. Same room number, same times. After a while, I didn't even feel shock anymore, just a steady pressure in my chest, like my body knew something my heart hadn't caught up to yet. One Thursday, I took the day off. I parked 2 buildings away, waited, watched. They arrived separately, like professionals. No affection in the parking lot, no risk. That alone told me everything. This wasn't new. I rented the room next to theirs. Cheap walls, too thin. That's where the real damage happened. Not from what they did, but from what they said. She's married to a ghost, Derek laughed. Guy's barely there. Sarah laughed with him. That sound cut deeper than anything else. He's good, she said. Reliable. Safe. Safe, like I was furniture. He fixes computers, Derek replied. Not exactly passion material. They laughed again. I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, staring at the wall between us, realizing something important. They weren't just betraying me. They were rewriting me. I didn't leave angry. I left focused. Because humiliation changes you. It strips away illusions and replaces them with precision. Back home, Sarah complained about stomach cramps, said she felt sick. I nodded, made tea, told her to rest. She never suspected a thing. People never look for consequences where they assume safety. A few days later, I heard from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, an old gym acquaintance. He was laughing, hard. You hear about Derek? He asked. No, I said. Guy embarrassed himself mid-workout, had to leave the gym, whole place shut down. I thanked him and hung up, for the first time in weeks. I smiled, not out of joy, out of confirmation. But that wasn't satisfaction. That was calibration. Because small disruptions don't stop affairs. They only irritate them. And irritation leads to mistakes. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat me down at the kitchen table. She looked pale, hands shaking. I need to tell you something, she said. I already knew it wouldn't be the truth. I think I might be pregnant. I didn't react, didn't blink, didn't ask how. I simply waited. She filled the silence with lies, timing errors, memory gaps, emotional appeals. I nodded, held her hands, said nothing. That night, as she slept, I opened a document on my laptop, a timeline, dates, times, details, every lie recorded, every pattern mapped. Because now it wasn't about revenge, it was about control. And control, I had learned, comes from patience. I didn't confront her about the pregnancy, not yet. Because lies like that don't stand alone. They lean on other lies. And if you pull the wrong one too early, everything collapses in the wrong direction. So I let her believe I was confused, worried, off balance. She needed to feel in control. That's when people talk. I started with Derek, not directly, never directly. I learned where he worked, who he answered to, and, more importantly, what the company feared. Most corporate places don't care about morality, they care about liability. And Derek was a walking one. I didn't send screenshots. I didn't threaten anyone. I asked questions, anonymous ones. Questions about workplace conduct, about fraternization policies, about conflicts of interest. Enough to trigger concern, not enough to point a finger. Within a week, Derek started acting different. Shorter temper, longer silences, less confidence. Sarah noticed. She always noticed when something threatened her version of reality. Something's wrong with him, she told me over dinner. He's under a lot of pressure at work. I nodded. That happens when people mix personal choices with professional lives, I said calmly. She stared at me. What do you mean? Nothing, I replied. Just a general observation. She didn't press, but I saw it. The flicker. The next move wasn't planned. It came to me. Sarah's best friend, the one who always covered for her, Jenny. They'd been close since college, close enough to lie together, close enough to know everything. I met Jenny by accident. At least that's how it looked. Coffee shop near her work. I sat down across from her before she could leave. She froze. That was my answer. I know, I said quietly. Her hands started shaking. You don't know anything, she whispered. I slid my phone across the table. One photo. Just one. Her face collapsed. How long? I asked. She started crying. 3 months, she said. Maybe more. She talked fast after that. Cover stories, fake trips, late-night texts. And then she said something that changed everything. She said if you found out you'd leave, Jenny admitted. So she needed time to transition. Transition. Like I was a job she was quitting. Did she tell you she was pregnant? I asked. Jenny went pale. No, she said. She said she was thinking about it, planning a lie that big. I didn't threaten Jenny. I didn't have to. I simply said this. If I hear one more lie that you help her tell, you won't be part of the next conversation. She nodded. She understood. That night, Sarah was restless, checking her phone, pacing, snapping at nothing. Are you okay? I asked. She hesitated. Do you ever feel like everything's about to fall apart? She said. I looked at her. Yes, I replied, right before it does. She didn't sleep much that night. Neither did I, but for very different reasons. Because I finally saw the end of this. Not chaos, not screaming, exposure. And exposure doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives with witnesses. The first real crack showed up at her job. Not a firing, not a suspension. Worse, uncertainty. Sarah started coming home earlier than usual. Quiet, watching me more closely than before. You seem different lately, she said one evening. I shrugged. People notice things when they stop lying to themselves, I replied. She didn't like that. 2 days later, Derek stopped showing up. No texts, no calls. Sarah tried to hide her panic, but she wasn't very good at it. He's busy, she said too quickly. Work stuff. I nodded. Work stuff has consequences, I said. That night, she confronted me, not angrily, desperately. You've been acting strange, she said. Are you talking to someone? I looked at her for a long moment. Yes, I said calmly. Myself. She laughed nervously. That's not funny. I'm not joking, I replied. She broke first, not with a confession, with fear. What would you do, she asked, if someone betrayed you? I leaned back in my chair. I'd let the truth do the damage, I said. Truth doesn't need help. Her face went pale. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Derek. His voice was nothing like I remembered. No swagger, no confidence. Man, he said quickly, I didn't know you two were still trying. I smiled. That's interesting, I said, because I didn't know you were part of my marriage. Silence. Then anger. She told me you didn't care, he snapped. She said you were basically roommates. I let that sit. She said that? I asked. Yes. Then she lied to both of us, I said. He hung up. That call mattered more than anything else, because it told me something important. They were no longer aligned. When people stop trusting each other, they start making mistakes. That afternoon, Sarah's phone didn't stop buzzing. She kept stepping outside to answer it, her voice raised, defensive, once scared. When she came back in, she looked at me like I was a stranger. What did you do? She asked quietly. Nothing, I replied. I stopped protecting lies. The pregnancy story unraveled next. She avoided the topic, changed details, missed appointments. When I asked about a doctor, she snapped. Why are you interrogating me? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The silence did the work. That night she cried, real tears this time. I'm scared, she said. Everything's slipping. I watched her carefully. This wasn't remorse. This was loss of control. You should be scared, I said gently. People don't fall when they cheat. They fall when everyone else stops covering for them. The next day, Jenny called me. She knows, she whispered. She thinks you're doing something. I'm not, I replied. That wasn't a lie. I wasn't doing anything. I was letting consequences move. By the end of the week, Derek had been formally warned at work. Sarah was asked to clarify her schedule. Her parents started calling, asking questions, real ones. That Friday night, Sarah stood in our bedroom doorway, eyes red, voice shaking. If you know something, she said, just say it. I looked at her. You don't want honesty, I replied. You want control back. She covered her face and slid down the wall. For the first time, I felt something shift. Not satisfaction, finality. Because when people realize the story is ending, they panic, and panic makes things public. In small towns, nothing stays private. People don't gossip because they're cruel. They gossip because silence feels unnatural when everyone knows everyone. Murphy's Bar was one of those places. Friday nights meant familiarity. Same faces, same stools, same stories. That's why I chose it. Not for drama, for witnesses. I arrived early, sat at the bar, ordered one beer, watched the door. I didn't know if Sarah would show, but I knew Derek would. Men like him don't disappear quietly. He walked in like he still belonged there. Shoulders back, forced confidence, scanning the room. When he saw me, his jaw tightened. But he walked over anyway. "Jake," he said, "didn't expect to see you." "Funny," I replied. I was thinking the same thing. He ordered a drink, tried to act casual. "Things got complicated," he said. "At work, at home." I nodded. They usually do when lies stack up. He stared at me. "You know, man," he said slowly. "This didn't have to get messy." I smiled. "It didn't," I agreed. "But you didn't ask me." Sarah arrived 10 minutes later. She froze when she saw us sitting together. For a moment, she looked like she might turn around, but she didn't. She walked in, and every eye in the place followed her. "Jake, please," she said quietly. "Not here." I took a sip of my beer. "You said honesty mattered," I replied. "This is where we've been dishonest the longest." People were listening now, not obviously, but they always are. Derek shifted in his seat. "You want to do this?" he asked. "I didn't start it," I said. "I'm just finishing it." "Tell them," I said, looking at Sarah. Her eyes filled with tears. "Tell them where you've been on Tuesdays and Thursdays." She shook her head. "Jake, tell them," I repeated. Silence. Then Derek laughed, a nervous laugh. "She came to me," he said loudly. "She said you were checked out, gone." The bar went quiet. Sarah turned on him. "Stop." "No," he snapped. "You don't get to pretend now." He looked around. "She's been sleeping with me for months." There it was. No denial, no ambiguity, just truth. I pulled out my phone. "Room 214, I said calmly. "Pine View Motel." Derek's face drained. "You followed us?" "I watched," I corrected. "Big difference." Sarah started crying. People shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered something under their breath. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was consequences. "And the pregnancy?" I asked. Sarah looked up sharply. "What pregnancy?" someone asked from behind us. Sarah froze. Derek looked confused. "What are you talking about?" he asked. I stood. "She told me she was pregnant," I said, "and swore it was mine." The room buzzed. Derek's voice dropped. "You said you were sure," he whispered to her. She broke. "There is no baby," she sobbed. "I lied. I was scared." That was it, the last piece. I didn't raise my voice, didn't insult anyone. I simply said, "This is who they are." And I walked out. Behind me, the bar erupted. Not yelling, questions, judgment, disbelief. That sound followed me to the door. I sat in my car for a long time afterward, hands on the wheel, heart steady, not triumphant, just done. Because when the truth becomes public, you don't need revenge, you just need to leave the room. The loud part ended at Murphy's Bar. That's what people never tell you. They think revenge ends with a confrontation, with someone crying, someone running, someone exposed. But that's just the noise. The real ending comes later, in silence. Sarah didn't come home that night. She texted once, "I'll stay with Jenny." I didn't reply. The house felt different without her, not empty, clear. The next morning, I changed the locks. Not out of anger, out of finality. When she came back 2 days later, dragging a suitcase up the driveway, she stopped when the key didn't work. She knocked, soft at first, then harder. "Jake, please." I stood on the other side of the door and listened. For years, I'd listened to lies. This time, I didn't say a word. Eventually, she left. I watched from the window as she sat in her car, crying, hands on the steering wheel like she didn't know where to go. And for the first time, I felt nothing. The divorce was quick. No fights, no demands, no drama. When someone burns every bridge themselves, there's nothing left to negotiate. She didn't ask for the house, didn't ask for money, didn't ask for sympathy. She signed the papers like someone accepting a sentence they already knew was coming. Derek vanished. That's how it happens in small towns. One week, someone's everywhere. The next, they're a rumor. Last I heard, he left the state. Different job, different gym, same reputation. That kind doesn't wash off. People treated me differently after that. Not with pity, with distance, like they weren't sure what to say. Some nodded, some avoided eye contact. A few told me I would have done the same thing. I never responded, because the truth is, I didn't do this to win. I did it to stop bleeding. 3 months later, I was cleaning out the garage. I found a box I didn't recognize. Old paperwork, receipts, photos. At the bottom was an envelope. My name. Inside was a letter, written months earlier, before Murphy's Bar, before everything exploded. Jake, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to tell you myself. My stomach tightened. I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know I should stop, but I don't feel like myself anymore. She wrote about feeling invisible, about wanting excitement, about convincing herself that lies were temporary, that she'd fix it later. Then the last paragraph, the part that changed everything. I got tested last month. The doctor said I can't get pregnant. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd see me as broken. I sat on the concrete floor for a long time, not angry, not sad, just stunned. The pregnancy lie wasn't panic. It was strategy. She'd planned it, calculated it, used it. That was the moment I understood something important. I didn't escape an affair. I escaped a person who could lie without blinking. 6 months passed, then a year. Life stabilized. Work, gym, quiet nights, no chaos, no double meanings, no checking phones. One evening, I got a call, unknown number. I answered. Jake, it's Sarah. I almost hung up, but curiosity won. I just wanted to tell you, she said. I finally understand. I waited. You didn't destroy my life, she continued. I did, long before you ever found out. Her voice wasn't begging, just tired. I'm in therapy now, she said. I work 2 jobs. I rent a room. I don't blame you anymore. I believed her. And it didn't matter. I won't call again, she said. But I needed you to know. You weren't weak. I was. Then the line went dead. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel regret. I felt closure. The real kind. The kind that doesn't need witnesses. Here's the truth no one tells you. Revenge isn't loud forever. It fades. But clarity stays. I didn't win because she lost. I won because I stopped lying to myself. Because I chose peace over pretending. Because I learned that loyalty isn't proven when things are easy. It's revealed when they're not. Some people send flowers. Some forgive. Some explode. Me? I let the truth do the work. And honestly, that smelled better than revenge ever could. The end.